One-Eyed Sunday was a figure of both mystery and legend in our small town, a place where everyone knew each other's business, yet no one truly knew him. He wasn't born in our town. He simply appeared one summer afternoon, as if he'd wandered out of the dusty pages of an old Western novel. He got his nickname from the black patch that covered his left eye, which was rumored to hide a gruesome scar from a fight long ago. The other eye, sharp and blue as the sky on a clear day, seemed to see everything and miss nothing. Some said he was a drifter. Others whispered that he was hiding from something or someone, but no one knew for sure, and One-Eyed Sunday wasn't the type to share his secrets. Sunday had a routine, as consistent as the turning of the seasons. Every morning, just after the sun peeked over the hills, he'd be at the diner, sitting in the corner booth with a cup of coffee and a newspaper. He never said much, just nodded at the regulars and occasionally exchanged a few words with the waitress, Mrs. Gibbons, who was old enough to remember when the town was just a scattering of farms. Kids were both fascinated and terrified of Sunday. On dares, they'd ride their bikes close to where he sat in the diner, or follow him at a distance when he walked down Main Street. But no one ever got too close. It was said that if you looked into his good eye for too long, you'd see things you weren't meant to see. Despite his solitary nature, Sunday had a way of showing up when he was needed most. Like the time old Mr. Carver's barn caught fire in the middle of the night. The flames were high, licking at the sky, and everyone thought the place would burn to the ground. But there was Sunday, out of nowhere, hauling water buckets and shouting orders like he'd been doing it his whole life. Thanks to him, they saved most of the barn, though Mr. Carver never did get a word of thanks out of him. Then there was the time young Tommy, the baker's son, went missing in the woods. A search party was organized, and folks combed the woods for hours with no sign of the boy. Just as the sun began to set, Sunday emerged from the trees, holding a sleepy but unharmed Tommy in his arms. When asked how he found the boy, Sunday just shrugged and said, "A hunch." No one pressed him further. Years passed, and Sunday became as much a part of the town as the old oak tree in the square. People stopped questioning his past or why he was there. They just accepted him, one-eyed and all, as part of their lives. One day, just as suddenly as he'd come, Sunday was gone. His booth at the diner was empty, his small rented room above the hardware store left with nothing but the faint smell of tobacco. Some said he'd finally made peace with whatever ghosts had been chasing him. Others claimed they saw him walking towards the train station, heading out of town just as quietly as he'd arrived. But the strangest thing was what he left behind. A small, weathered box on Mrs. Gibbons' counter,